Hey guys, Jeremy here from School of Wok Covent Garden. It's Wok Wednesday and this week it's a vegan Bibimbap, that Korean rice stone bowl, but without the meat, but you won't miss it. First off guys, apologies for the noise. They are still doing building work right outside the school. We can't do anything about it. But hey, it's keeping us going. Right, so the 10 grain rice or any sort of brown rice or pearl barley needs a really good wash. I'm gonna go, this is half a cup here. It's an American cup. So I'm gonna go to 1 cup of rice. We're only doing sort of 1 bibimbap, so that'll be enough. You need to really sort of give this a good clean. So really sort of sift your fingers through that rice and the water. Try and get as much of that excess starch out as possible. And Korean rice tends to be the more short grain rice. That's what you're looking for. So even if you're looking at white rice, the shorter grained white rice is better. This is really super healthy. It's got loads of different grains in here. My favorite is probably the pearl barley. You do want to wash it at least 3 to 4 times. So you can see how sort of murky that water is. This is my first wash. The more times you wash it, the cleaner the water will become when you're sifting through. So pour that out and wash it again. So this is actually the 5th wash I'm doing. Now, it could be the 3rd or 4th, but my mum, being Chinese, always told me it can never be 4 because 4 is an unlucky number. So it's either 3 or 5 washes. I've gone for 5. Now you can see the difference between that water. Even as I'm running my fingers through the rice grains on this 5th wash, the water's pretty much clear. And that tells me that I've washed my rice well. Next up, we're going to get your water into rice for cooking, but also soaking. Now, with 10 different grains of rice here, all different sort of shapes and sizes, what you want to do is think about what's in there. We've got brown rice grains in there, so it does need a lot more water than, say, using sort of steamed white rice. So I'm going to go for about 2 to 2 1/4 the times water to rice. So I've got 2 of these, so that makes 4.5. So I've got 2 of these, so that makes 4.5 cups of water. I confused myself. 1, 2, 3, 4, and a half. At this point, let that sit and start to soak in some of that water. At a minimum, half an hour before you start cooking it. So my multi-grain rice has had at least half an hour. It's probably had about an hour of soaking now. Still quite clean, that water. So at this point, you want to cook it. Bring it to a boil, high heat. As soon as it's boiling, bring that right down to simmer, so low to medium heat. And then you want to bring it down again to low heat after that, and let it just cook away for a good sort of 40 to 45 minutes. Most importantly, when you're cooking your rice, you want to keep your lid on at all times. And that allows that steam to really sort of slowly cook that rice through. You can pretty much use whatever vegetables you want for a bibimbap. That's what I like about it. They've got to be colourful. You've got to have that nice sort of selection of veg. I've got a bit of carrot, some cucumber, some radish actually. I'm going to blanch all of these sort of vegetables here. The mushrooms later on we're going to sort of griddle or char. The carrot and cucumber, you want sort of good size strips. For 1 stone bowl, you don't need a huge amount, but of course if you're doing it for the whole family, then just prepare a little bit more. So I'm going for good matchsticks of carrot. Cucumber, you could just keep this fresh. But there is such a thing as cooked cucumber. So if you are going to cook it, go for slightly larger sort of batons as opposed to matchsticks. Keeping these separate so we can blanch them one by one. You can of course use courgette or any other sort of green veg. I've got some spinach here which will blanch very quickly. Radish, great colour. If you wanted, you could make pickled radish out of this, but I'm actually going to blanch this as well. You know, it's almost like a baby turnip in texture when you cook it through slightly. So I'm going to go for quarters of that radish so that it keeps a nice crunch even after blanching. Spring onion. We've got bean sprouts, so you could sort of interweave the spring onion with the bean sprouts. You'll also use a little bit for garnish later on. With the bean sprouts, you probably want lengths. For garnish, this rings of spring onion will do. And then lastly I've got, because we're keeping this vegan, a nice meaty mushroom. I'm going to sort of just cut nice crisscross lengths into this mushroom to allow the marinade to sit into it. They look pretty, don't they? So I'm going to marinate my mushroom, and you can either use sort of a Korean soybean paste or miso, a white miso. They both work very well with this. So I've got about 1.5 to 2 tablespoons of miso here. Light soy sauce, a couple of spoons. You need enough liquid in there to wrap around the mushrooms. Some sugar. I don't like it excessively sweet, so half a tablespoon of sugar is enough. Give that a good mix first. Now you feel with the miso that it's a little thick. You can add a bit more soy and even a bit of water if you wish, just so it can wrap around the mushrooms nicely. So with 3 tablespoons of water, let's thin this right out. It's actually quite salty, so I will put a bit more sugar in. And the only thing I'm going to add to that is a drizzle of sesame oil and then some ginger and garlic. So your ginger and garlic into that marinade. And then your mushrooms, just want to wrap those nicely around the sauce, or wrap that sauce around the mushrooms, I should say. Get all that flavour into there. Perhaps be a bit more delicate than I am. Try not to break them too much. And that will add, or pack a lot of flavour into the mushrooms. You won't miss any of that meatiness. So, I'm going to blanch your veg one bit at a time. Carrots, probably about 1 minute for your carrots, depending on how finely you've matchsticked them up. So you want to keep the vibrancy of all your veg. Just don't overcook them. It literally is just wilting the veg down. Cucumber, similar to the carrots, no longer than a minute. 30 seconds really is enough. This will keep the crunch, but just sort of interact with the rest of the veg slightly differently to if it was raw. What it also does is accentuates that burst of cucumber juice when you bite into it. Radish. So that radish cooks through quite quickly, and you can see it going from sort of completely white inside to more of a translucent grey white. What we don't want to do is lose the pink colour from the skin. And again, we want it to be relatively crunchy still. So 1 to 2 minutes for your radish. Your spinach will almost instantly cook. 1 quick blanch and out. Bean sprouts, same again. You could stir fry this, but whilst I'm blanching, may as well just use that water. 30 seconds for your bean sprouts. With your bean sprouts, just to keep them crunchy, you want to run some cold water over those. Now you can pan fry or griddle or grill or barbecue your mushrooms. Well, I've got my wok here, so I'm not going to sort of get loads more equipment out. If you are doing it in a wok, you do need a fair amount of oil to just make sure you sear those mushrooms nicely. So just grab that mushroom into the centre, push it aside. And then just push your mushrooms in. I want that to char nicely if it can. And then just lower your heat to medium heat. Just push into the mushrooms to let them char. Now with the sauce, you can see it's still quite thick. If your sauce is really thick, I want to use it to cook these mushrooms through. You will need to add a bit of water to it. Once you've got good charring, you can turn your mushrooms. Just go delicate on them. You don't want to break them too much. Look at that colour. Fantastic. And they're softening nicely, but they're not fully cooked yet. Now this sauce will cook the mushrooms through much quicker. Sauce goes over the top. And that sugar in the sauce will make it caramelise quite quickly. These mushrooms are feeling quite sort of spongy, like they've soaked in all that flavour. So I don't want to overdo it. I think that's good. Now it's time to season all the bits and bobs. I'm literally going to use a bit of sesame oil and a bit of salt for your veg, nothing more, because most of the flavour is going to come from that mushroom and the sauce, and then your Korean chili sauce at the end. Because we don't have gas in here, I've got my bibimbap bowl in the oven at the highest possible heat, so it's at 230 for a good sort of 15-20 minutes at least, so it gets nice and hot. I'm going to season that bowl with sesame oil as well, because I want a slight sort of crisp edge on the rice. It's really hot, so sesame oil, which isn't usually used for cooking, you want to base around that bowl. You can see that smoking off the bottom of that bowl. Now the hotter that is, the better, so I'm going to keep that in the oven until my rice is ready. So a little bit of salt in each of the veg, a drizzle of sesame oil, give that a good mix. Lastly, my gochujang, which is your Korean chili paste, crucial for topping your bibimbap. I'm going to put a teaspoon of sugar into that and 2 teaspoons of light soy sauce. Give that a good mix and just thins it out slightly. And then some of these sesame seeds, black sesame seeds I got here. You could use black or normal white toasted sesame seeds. And that's my Korean chili sauce to go over the top. So my hot stone bowl is extremely hot. My rice is now ready to use. It's had 10 minutes of sitting after it's been cooked for 45, so you get a nice sort of steamed separate finish. Now it's time to sort of dry it out a little. That's definitely hot. Now you want that to crisp up nicely, so I'm going to pop it back in the oven for another sort of 5 minutes or so, just to allow that base to crisp. So from here on in, it's easy. But hey, there's a lot of preparation to this type of dish. You start to compile your veg. Make sure you colour coordinate it as much as possible. Get some of that pink colour. Chris, our vegan videographer, is drooling right now And so I'm going to eat as much of this as possible. Cucumber, lightly blanched. Good bit of that carrot. And spinach. Bit of that spring onion just in with the bean sprouts. Just be careful because that bowl is really hot. I've also got some nori, your dried seaweed here. Add a bit of savoury flavour to the dish, and that will just wilt down with the heat. And of course, the star of the show, your charred mushrooms in the centre. Oh, look at that. Get a bit of that miso sauce in there. Your Korean chili paste. Your sesame seeds. It's always nice to just take a few of those, sprinkle that over the top. Just a beautiful dish. I absolutely love bibimbap. It's one of my go-tos when I like to go out and not have a Chinese meal. Can't wait to dig in. Right, now the fun of this is kind of mixing it all together with this chili sauce. So I quite like mine spicy. Get your chili sauce into there. Get that rice and that chili sauce mixed in. Take a bit of that crispiness. Some cucumber. Just a mix of everything, really. It'd be sacrilege not to try that mushroom. Oh, wow. Yeah, that was good. Great amount of flavour in the mushroom. I'm still eating it. Oh, hello. It's delicious. Don't miss the meat at all. I'd happily have that once a week at least. If you like this recipe, you want to learn more, or you just want to see me stuffing my face, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.